Hey guys, welcome back. This is week 33 Project Life. I started with my photos today and they were very kind of blue and gold heavy, and I still happened to have the Heritage Collection from Crepe Paper sitting on my desk from a video I did a couple of weeks ago. And I decided I would use that. It was kind of perfect for these sorts of colors. So I'm looking through what I've got left of the collection, and I don't have a lot of papers left from the collection. I've got a ton of embellishments, but not a whole lot of papers. So I also have the digital collection, and at the moment I'm just going through some of the digital papers that I had already printed for that other video. If you haven't seen that, I'll link it up here for you. And I decided that I would go with this. It's this very subtle kind of peachy grid sort of pattern. I'm going to use two pieces of that, so two 4x6 cards of that. I've also got this blue and white stripe. It's kind of a, I've used it for something else, so it's got, the stripes are kind of the wrong way. I would have probably preferred horizontal stripes, but I didn't have enough of the paper to fit it that way, and I'm really just trying to work with kind of what I've already printed rather than printing out any more. So I have trimmed that, so I have got the vertical stripes instead. Now this piece here, I haven't printed it onto cardstock. It is kind of a thick paper, but it is definitely a lot thinner than what I would usually use for my Project Life cards. But I'm just going to very kind of purposefully cut out the colors that I want from it. So I don't want to add too much of that kind of dark forest green or anything. I want to keep those kind of golds, the warmer peaches, just those kind of lighter and brighter and warmer colors rather than the darks. I don't really want to add in any more blue into here, and there's no green really in my photos, so I'm just trying to keep it a little bit more subtle. What I decided to do though is I kind of want to swap the cards that I've cut out. So I did trim out that blue and white stripe and popped that under the photo of Lil, but because that kind of gives me a grid of 3 pockets up the top there that all have a little bit of a blue tinge to them, and they are the only places in my spread that have the blue, it just felt a little bit unbalanced. So what I've done is I've swapped out those 2 pieces. I've added the blue and white vertical stripes down on the bottom left, and I've changed the card, I use the term loosely, I've changed the paper in behind Lil's photo to that lovely peach and gold striped paper. Now I'm going to go ahead and just start working on my title card straight away, because I had this idea well, from those 2 videos that I was talking about earlier that I used this collection in. One of the traveler's notebook ideas that I had sort of put in that video I thought would translate really nicely to this particular title card, and so I'm going to try that out today. I haven't actually tested this, so I'm just kind of winging it. There's not a whole lot of prep going on, except you can see that I did grab a few different colored inks, and again I'm sticking with those kind of warmer tones, and I don't want anything that's like super dark on here either. And I'm going to stamp the word week multiple times. So I'm using the Madison, I think it is, the Madison Alpha from Citrus Twist. It's a lovely big bold alpha. It's the exact one that I used in my traveler's notebook that I was thinking of. And I'm just going to stamp that in 4 different colors vertically up the card. Now I am starting on the left hand side, you can see here. Because I'm stamping, it's not actually a word, they're like alpha stamps. So because I'm stamping them in multiple colors, I decided just to work my way up in color order rather than stamping the one word week and then the next word week. I'm just doing it by letter here, which means that things weren't quite, maybe not quite as straight as I had wanted them, but I still love the effect of this. It's not really an ombre, but that's what I'm going to call it. It's like a multiple color ombre up here. Nearly done. Honestly, it didn't take that long. I really like these kind of bigger alpha stamps for that. You could get the same effect with smaller stamps, but you would have to repeat more than 4 times like I've done here. So it would take a little bit of extra time. As it is, this didn't take me very long at all, and I really love that it's a very subtle kind of tone on tone effect, but I love all those extra colors it adds. It's kind of like creating your own pattern. That's why I wasn't super worried about adding two of the same patterned sort of paper. Don't normally do that, but this one I knew I was going to add these kind of extra colors to and sort of create its own pattern. Now I'm just adding the week number. Those are the thickers that came with the Heritage collection. And I do want to add another little label under here for my date stamping. I could just date stamp it straight onto the card, but I decided to add a label. This is from that cardstock sticker sheet, and they're kind of a little bit glossy. It's not super glossy, but it's glossy enough that I'm going to use StazOn ink rather than any of my other regular inks, just because I know from experience that these ones can smudge a little bit. So I am going to use StazOn. I'm going to be very careful when I'm stamping it, and very careful after I've stamped it so as not to smudge that ink. I ended up picking the blue label. There was two left on that sheet. One was sort of green and one was blue, but again, sticking with the theme, I've got those warm colors with little pops of blue. So this gives me that extra little piece of blue up on the left-hand side here as well. So next up, I'm going to do a little bit of stamping directly onto my 4x6 photo at the top there. I'm going to use my favorite little Bailey Alpha, and I'm going to use my favorite ink for stamping on photos, which is Memento Tuxedo Black ink. The reason I'm able to successfully stamp on photos at home is because I print at home on an inkjet printer. I use Canon Photo Glossy 2 paper. It is designed to absorb ink, and so stamping directly on it is just a breeze. There's no worrying about sort of mushing the ink around. What you do have to worry about though is spelling things correctly. And what I'm attempting to spell here is that a storm is coming. And if you can see better than I can, that I've spelt storm wrong. Now I'm not usually one for reprinting photos. Normally I would find a way to kind of fix that, but there is no way to fix that without kind of adding something over the top of my photo, and I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to stamp directly onto my photo. So I did go ahead and reprint that photo and re-stamp A Storm Is Coming. I did use my lettering guide on that one just so that I could try and get that as centered in the photo as I can. And then I'm going to use the same alpha again. I'm going to use it on this other pattern paper card here. I'm going to kind of make a little filler card. This was the week that New Zealand went back into lockdown again, so I don't want to dwell too much on it, so I'm just going to create a kind of little filler card here. It is yellow and black, which is kind of the same as the messaging that we have for all the COVID-19 announcements here in New Zealand, but I'm not being too particularly literal about it. I'm just going to stamp out "Here we go again," and again I'm using my letter guide so that I can kind of get that as centered on the paper as I can. Now the reality is like, could I have printed this card and printed the photo with those titles on it? Sure, I could. But I love stamping. I love the actual physical act of it. I love the handmade look of it. It is Stamptember, so I'm going to use stamps to do that. And it's never going to be as perfect as if I had put this all together in Photoshop. But again, for me, one of the purposes of Project Life is the time that I sit down and use my hands. I get off the computer and just have fun playing with paper. So hence the stamping rather than creating digital cards, even when I'm using digital paper like I am. Now I don't have a whole lot left to do on this spread. I kind of want to keep things, I guess, as sort of simple as possible. I feel like the last couple of weeks of Project Life have been pretty busy, pretty colorful, and so I do want to just kind of pull back a little bit this week. Like I said, I've got tons of embellishments left from Heritage for various reasons. I ended up with multiples of lots of these embellishments, the sticker packs and all of those sorts of things. So I've still got a bunch of stuff that I can use here, and that's what you'll see me doing. I'm just adding a couple of little leaves on here, not because it's particularly relevant, but just because I want to add a little bit of embellishment to that card. And the same thing kind of goes for this photo of Lil. I want to keep it simple though, so I'm just adding a little bit of kind of embellishment to this paper. I'll call it paper now because it's definitely what it is. Using some of these black and white, they're not vellum, what are they? They're kind of clear stickers. I really like it for adding onto patterns like this, and so I'm going to keep that really simple. It was kind of like a really long sort of flourish piece. I ran it all the way across that card and trimmed off the two edges so it was kind of centered on there. I have kept those two little pieces though because I want to use them again right now. I'm going to add them onto this card. I never trimmed down this piece of paper because it's going to go into a 4x6 pocket as a kind of 3x4, but I'm just cheating by adding a little bit of adhesive and then adhering my photo down over top. So it does look like two 3x4 cards, but it's not going to flop around in the pocket. So I only needed to trim that piece so it was 4 inches high, and it didn't really matter how wide it was. It gave me the ability to add my photo onto the side of that. Now, before I started all of this, I just went and ran those two cards through my typewriter. And again, it gives me that kind of homemade look because I've got a vintage typewriter. It does not play nicely with sort of thicker bits of cardstock. In fact, it doesn't play nicely with any paper at the moment. I think it's sort of on its last legs, really. I've tried my best to kind of give it as much care as I can, and it's getting, it's better than it was, but it's not perfect. So again, much like the rest of my page, it's very homemade looking. Now, this is my last card, and I'm using these alphas again so they tie in the whole page really. I'm just putting my lockdown baking begins in here. I didn't plan very well with the stamping, so again it's a little bit messy, but that's just kind of going with the theme of today. I also added the word cheers underneath the journaling on the left there. It wasn't particularly relevant to that journaling, but it was very relevant to the photo of the gin and tonic that I had. It was well deserved by that point of the week, I can tell you that. Now, again, I just want to add not too much more, but just a little bit. So I am going to add a couple more stickers. I loved these little sticker packs. One of the things I'm going to add are these little photo corners. I'm going to use the black ones here just because it gives me a little bit sort of a darker spot down the bottom there. There's a lot of black in this spread with all of the stamping, and I've got a couple of black and white photos, so I wanted to make sure I balanced that out with another couple of spots of black down the bottom. The other thing I love are these tiny little, they're not word stickers, they're phrase stickers, and again they're on that clear sticker paper, which normally I'm not like a super fan of, but I love it for this kind of thing. I'm just going to add a few little phrases here and there, one above my stamping, and I've added one to the photo of Lil. I'm going to add a couple more on here. Some of them are a little bit longer. They just fit onto the 3x4 card, which was 3x4 photo, sorry, which was fine. This one is a little bit longer and it's not going to fit in the actual gap that I've got for the words, so I'm just going to split that in half. Because it's clear, you can see it a little bit, but not enough to be super concerned with it. It does just look a bit tidier than if I could kind of handwritten it or run it through the typewriter myself. One last sticker, grateful for the gin and tonic, I definitely was, and that is this week all done. I'm super pleased with how this turned out, definitely not as colourful as the previous few weeks, and it's been a nice break, to be honest, to add just a few little neutrals with some of my favourite stamps. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen, otherwise I'll see you again really soon. Bye!